From the Hill, Republican Congressman Rob Wittman from Virginia and Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff from California. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. What do you make of the framework of this agreement? Congressman Wittman, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm concerned. I'm highly skeptical of the framework. First of all, is we're relying on Bashar Assad to identify exactly where all these weapons are located. As you know, he's not very trustworthy. Secondly, how do you control these weapons once they're identified in the midst of a civil war? And then you're going to rely on a UN force to be part of that? Will U.S. boots on the ground be part of that UN force? And then thirdly, to dispose of these by the middle of 2014, I think that's a tremendous expectation, and I have deep concerns about being able to achieve the elements that are in this framework, and I look for more details to see exactly how this is going to be done. Again, I have very deep reservations about this.
And Congressman Schiff, your reaction?
Well, I think it's a positive step forward. It does have all the potential drawbacks that my colleague mentioned, but still it's been the first path we've been able to see that not only would make sure that Assad never used chemical weapons again, but that these chemical weapon stockpiles wouldn't fall into the hands of al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, or Hezbollah when the regime falls. There's nothing that we've been able to do thus far that holds that promise. So yes, is it tough? Yes, is it in the middle of a civil war? Yes, will Assad try to delay and obfuscate and hide? Absolutely. But as we saw in Iraq with Saddam Hussein and the UN inspections there, they can be effective in ridding the country of these chemical weapons. And I think we need to give this every chance to succeed.
Congressman Schiff, I'd like to read to you a statement from two of your colleagues, Senator Lindsey Graham and Senator John McCain, which they put out yesterday afternoon. It says, and I quote, "What concerns us most is that our friends and enemies will take the same lessons from this agreement. They see it as an act of provocative weakness on America's part. We cannot imagine a worse signal to send to Iran as it continues its push for a nuclear weapon." What do you make of that?
Well, look, if your objective is to get the U.S. militarily involved to try to change the balance on the battlefield and decide the outcome of the Civil War, then this is a bad deal. But that's not the President's aim, and that's, I think, not where the American people want us to go. So this is a limited agreement focused on the chemical weapons issue. Had we gone forward with a military strike, it would not have answered the question about what happens to those stockpiles when the regime falls. So I think that if your focus is on dealing with the chemical weapons, it's a good proposal, a tough one. But if your goal, and I think that may be true for Senators McCain and Graham, is to go beyond that and decide the outcome, and you're willing to risk being entangled in the Civil War, then this is not the deal for you.
Congressman Wittman, aren't we already entangled in the Civil War, at least as it pertains to the broader outcome of any conflict in the Middle East and the propensity for it to spread further?
Well, we are. Obviously, we're involved in this diplomatic effort. We would have been involved if military action were taken. What my concern is going forward is making sure, too, that this effort results in what it proposes to do, and that is to rid Syria of these chemical weapons and to make sure that they do not fall into the hands of other folks in the region that would use the weapons against other countries or against U.S. interest in that area. I think ultimately that's where we are. We have interest there. I want to make sure that we are at the forefront of protecting U.S. interest in that area, and that includes making sure that those impacts that might occur with how we are perceived by other countries are also taken into account. We need to be strong in how we deal with Iran in their development of nuclear weapons also as part of this continuing effort there in Syria.
And Congressman Schiff, just 30 seconds or so left. While Mr. Putin was organizing all this, at the same time, or at least last week, he was sending a new batch of S-300 missiles, I think it's S-300, very sophisticated anti-aircraft missiles to Iran, and also offering his support for them to build another nuclear power plant. What do you make of that?
Well, what I make of it is that our relationship with the Russians is not going to be based on trust. It's not going to be based on a perfect confluence of interests, but where we can find narrow agreement that suits both our interests and the Russians, as we have found here in ridding Syria of chemical weapons, we still need to pursue it, notwithstanding the fact we're going to vigorously oppose them on other issues.
Congressman Schiff, Congressman Wittman, thank you both for your time. Let you get back to Sunday football now. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.